go. Hey, everybody, we're live. Just give me a couple seconds to share the link real quick and get started with the show. Da-da-da-da. So, first thing I got to do, have me a drink of my caffeinated beverage. All right. So, let's go ahead and share the link real quick, and then I'll get started. I got a lot of news today to get through. Share the link real quick, and then I'll get started. And some fun topics coming. So let's just share the link real quick. So people can find me. All right, let's get that out of the way. Just give me a second. Jimmy, hello, Jimmy. How are you today? Are you ready for an exciting show? I got some fun topics today. Just got to share the link real quick so everybody can find the stream that wants to. A lot of my friends live in overseas in the Philippines and Scotland, etc. So they're on different time zones, and I don't know what time it is where they're at because I'm bad at math. I'm doing pretty good today. Thank you for asking. I finished my very first topic, or not so much topic, but update, we'll say, is move, cat, you got to get down. I published my second book yesterday. It is a collection of short stories, mostly spooky stories, and then a collection of poems. It is currently available for purchase on Amazon, as well as the ebook. You can get the paperback or the ebook. It's also on Kindle Unlimited. I need some tobacco to turn my brain juices to overdrive so that I can actually function. So that's the first bit of update. Also, I am back to full-time at my job, which means I will not be able to do these videos on Wednesdays like I had been doing, unfortunately. So I'm shifting things around to where I'll try to do this show on Thursdays, and then the Breeze Toy Talk on Fridays, if I can get organized, because I still need some time to myself to play Minecraft, because I'm building an ocean in my creative world in Minecraft. I use dynamite to tear down an entire mountain and all of the grassland around it, and I'm filling it in with sand and water buckets to turn it into an ocean, because I'm building a city in Minecraft, and I'm building a oceanside resort, but the world I spawned in didn't have an ocean close enough to a flatland grassland biome, because I wanted to build in the flatland grassland biome. So I have to build my own ocean because the ocean was too far away. But it's okay. It's work, but it's fun. It's part of the fun of Minecraft. So I didn't really pick out which one is going to be my top story today. So let me go ahead and pull that to the front. My top story comes from BBC News, but it's also basically on every news site, but I found it on BBC first. Netflix announces Minecraft animated series, which I am super hyped about. I don't even have Netflix, but let's see what the article says. It celebrated its 15th birthday this year, yeah. A short teaser trailer shows a green creeper character from the game scuttle into the middle of a black screen before exploding, blah, blah, blah. It says the show would feature an original story with new characters, and more information would follow soon. That's literally all it says. No information on when it comes out. But yeah, hopefully we get more information soon, because it sounds like it was just recently announced, probably this morning from the looks of it. Let me read the timestamp on this article. Yeah, 2 hours ago. So this was just announced. So this could be fun. Hopefully it's an actual show and not an interactive piece of shit like the story mode they have on Netflix. I don't mind playing story mode on my PS3, where I initially bought it, but not on Netflix. That's stupid to me. I don't think Netflix should have ever gotten into interactive videos. I refuse to watch them. Okay. This one comes from GameSpot. It says Evercade is making Street Fighter and Mega Man countertop arcade cabinets. They'll be up for pre-order next week with an early bird discount. It is available in 2 styles, the Mega Man Alpha Series and the Street Fighter Alpha Series. Both are designed as bar top units and come pre-assembled, so you can start playing right out of the box. Each includes 6 games, but they're also compatible with existing Evercade cartridges. Play over 500 titles, blah, blah, blah. USB ports and some other fun stuff. So the Mega Man Alpha comes with Mega Man, the Power Battle, Mega Man 2, the Power Fighters, Carrier, Air Wing, Final Fight, Knights of the Round, that's a good game, and Strider. Street Fighter Alpha cabinet comes with Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, not bad. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, obviously. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, eat shit. Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams, never heard of it. Street Fighter Alpha 2 and Street Fighter 3 Alpha 3. Goddamn, Capcom, get your shit together. All right. It's going to be roughly $300 plus or minus, depending on which region you live in. Personally, in the past, I built my own arcade main cabinet. If I ever get another arcade machine working again, that's the route I will go. But I'm hesitant to do so because I don't want to dig out or track down a functional CRT television, because that's a hassle. But I also don't want to build an arcade cabinet with a flat screen monitor, so I'm kind of torn on how to go about doing that. This one also comes from GameSpot. It says PlayStation plans on outsourcing and co-development to combat rising costs. Now, I brought this article up because the next article I have got a couple of PlayStation articles, but then I gotta find it. Here it is. This one comes from Game Rant. I'm gonna read this headline and then I'll go back to that. PlayStation is outsourcing because they're broke. And this headline says PS5 is now the most profitable console generation in Sony history. So the dipshits are, with their left hand, bragging about how they're making more money than they've ever made, and with their right hand, they're crying, "We're broke. We need to outsource." So this is exactly the bullshit I hate about capitalism, because in the same day they're announcing they're cutting costs, they're also announcing they're making more money than they've ever fucking made. So that's one of the things that pisses me off about capitalism, but I've bitched enough about that. But here's what the article says. Last year, the budgets of The Last of Us Part 2 and Horizon Forbidden West were, quote, accidentally revealed. And it says each first-party PlayStation game cost over $200 million to make, which is higher than most blockbuster Hollywood movies. That is actually true. Unless it's in the MCU, which, those are way convoluted budgets, but whatever. So some dude, Herman Holst, the CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, says, We include areas such as looking what can be outsourced, for example, to avoid too high peak resource on development teams because costs can be sticky. We're looking at co-development options in areas where the cost per resource is maybe somewhat lower than the average or on the American West Coast, blah, blah, blah. Basically, what they're saying is they're going to, fuck over their employees and outsource to whoever is the lowest bidder in this case. But on the same fucking day, they also announced PS5 is the most profitable console generation in Sony history, so fuck wads. Yeah. The PS5 has reportedly matched the PS4 in sales with 106 billion US dollars while boasting a higher operating income at 10 million US dollars. The historic success of the PS5 comes after Sony was forced to surmount major supply issues with the console early in its life. Well, yeah, no shit. Okay, and there's some charts and stuff on this is GameRant.com. It just pisses me off that they're saying, hey, we make more money now than we've ever made, but also we have to outsource because we're broke. Fuck off, Sony. They're getting to be about as bad as Nintendo as a company goes. I mean, at least they're not suing fan projects yet. But, okay. Anyways. This one comes from GameSpot. And this one says, PlayStation, this is another PlayStation one. PlayStation boss reveals why Sony doesn't release most PS5 games on PC day and date. And he basically says, it's the same guy. He says, we have a dual approach here. On the live service side, we are releasing our titles simultaneously, so day and date on PS5 and PC. But with our tentpole titles, our single-player narrative-driven titles that are the backbone of what Sony Studios has delivered in recent years, blah, 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 we take a more strategic approach, he says. In 2022, he said that Sony will not bring their tentpole titles to PC at least a year until after they've been on PS5. There was a major snafu with Helldivers recently, Helldivers 2, which I think I talked about recently, but I don't remember. So Sony is kind of really kind of all over the place today with like good news, bad news, and what the fuck news. So, all right, Sony, you're turning into Microsoft. That's not a good place to be. Okay, so let's move on. This one is coming from EW.com, Entertainment Weekly, and I saw it on other sites, but this was the first link I found. It says Nicholas Galitzine will star as He-Man in new live-action movie from Amazon. The movie, Masters of the Universe, is set to hit theaters in summer 2026. They've been talking about a Masters of the Universe live-action revival for a while. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. This is coming from Amazon MGM Studios, it looks like. It says the reintroduction of the character and his universe will be an epic film that will delight audiences from here to eternity. That's a bold statement. I have no issues with the 1987 live-action Masters of the Universe movie. It was fun. I like the toys. Don't care for the cartoons at all, but you know me, I don't like cartoons that much to begin with. Although I want to clarify, I don't hate cartoons. There are a lot of cartoons I do like. It's just not my go-to medium. I want to make that clear. You know. All right, I don't see anything else on this site. So this one's a fun food topic. This is from CNN.com. And it says Taco Bell's oversized Cheez-It collab is finally going nationwide. It says one of the most eagerly anticipated items ever by Taco Bell is finally getting a nationwide release. 2 years ago, Taco Bell and Cheez-It created 2 new menu items that used a massive cheese cracker, blah, blah, blah. The Big Cheez-It Tostada and Big Cheez-It Crunch Wrap Supreme, as they're called, are being added to U.S. menus following a trial run that got, quote, overwhelmingly positive reaction, blah, blah, blah. So now they've got Doritos and Cheez-It at Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell, which is why I wanted to bring this up. Because if I can scrape together, I don't know, $5 or whatever, I might swing by Taco Bell later today and try this sucker out if it's available. When is it coming nationwide? It might not be available today. Might have to wait. All right, I'm just looking to see. The Cheez-It Tostada layers ground beef, reduced fat, sour cream, tomatoes, lettuce, and cheddar cheese on the cheesy cracker. The Cheez-It Crunch Wrap Supreme replaces the internal tostada shell with a giant Cheez-It for $5.49. Blah, blah, blah. All right, so those look interesting. I'm still trying to find when is this going nationwide. I don't see a time frame. Oh, no, it does. It says, okay, beginning June 6th, the collaboration is going nationwide for a limited time. Okay, so we still got a few days to wait. Thank you, channel. I appreciate that. All right. This one is sort of out of left field, but I wanted to mention it for a couple of reasons. This is coming from BBC.com, and I'm just going to read the headline because I don't want to dig into the details, so you can go read it yourself if you want. It just says, Queen could sell their entire catalog to Sony for $1 billion US. And it does say that if it goes through, this will be the biggest catalog buyout in recorded music industry history. I don't know if people still listen to Queen. I fucking don't. But I've already done a whole video on why I hate Queen. They're just not my cup of tea. I know everybody loves Queen. I'm a weirdo, I guess. All right, that's all I got for news and rumors and stuff. Not as much as I thought, actually. I'm staying out of politics and hard news because I was a journalist for 7 years. Yeah, probably. Oh God, Adam Sandler movies. Ugh. Oh, that sounds scary. All right, so let's get into the topics. Let's see. I got to pull up my production sheet. So for my movie discussion, today we're digging into the 90s teen comedies. I've been on a 90s teen comedy kick recently. Watched Encino Man, She's All That, 10 Things I Hate About You, Clueless, and Can't Hardly Wait, all within the span of like 3 months. Had seen them all growing up when they were new. Couple of quick observations before I dig into the individual movies. The 90s were a considerably more cynical time than people remember. They weren't as upbeat and happy-go-lucky as the 80s. I just did a whole article on this on my website, stephaniebri.com. But I noticed a trend in the 90s teen movies. You have your main character, and I'm just going to basically say all across the board, your main character is a selfish asshole whose entire motivation is they just want to be the most popular or whatever. Almost universally in 90s teen movies. Now, in the 80s teen movies, it was more, they were unpopular kids. They were struggling, not necessarily to be popular, just to live, just to not be bullied. Basically, The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, etc. But in the 90s, it wasn't enough to just not be bullied. They had to be special. Yep. So I was watching Encino Man, and it really pissed me off. The main character has no regard at all for the caveman he thought out from prehistory into smack dab in the middle of 90s youth culture. He's literally using him to elevate his own popularity while also using him to hit on a girl who actually already has a boyfriend in the movie, who, yeah, the boyfriend kind of doesn't behave very well. But to be fair, this jerk is trying to steal his girlfriend. So I mean, yeah, I would kind of be an asshole to him too. If I was the boyfriend, I'd be like, dude, that's my fucking girlfriend. Leave me alone. Leave her alone. Go fuck off. So I understand in this instance, I understand why the guy we're supposed to hate, the alleged bully, isn't really a bully. He's just, like fucking initially defending his girlfriend's honor and her right to choose who she wants. And the best friend, who is played by Pauly Shore, goes out of his way to be like, dude, this guy is like traumatized. His whole world is extinct, and we're just using him so that we can, get dates for the prom. What the fuck? The movie is fun and enjoyable for its bits, its comedy bits, but the underlying plot is really like stupid and depressing. It's like an asshole jerk who is using this, this very vulnerable guy to hit on a girl that's very not single. And he even uses a pornographic picture of her that he has from her childhood to bait her, basically to blackmail her. Very scummy. Next up, we have Clueless. I could do a whole video on everything wrong with Clueless. I'm pretty sure if they haven't already done it, CinemaSins probably should. That movie is a hot fucking mess. Yes, I love it. It's fun to watch, especially, remembering back in the day when malls were actually pretty fucking cool. But, again, it's a spoiled rich bitch who the entire plot of the movie is just she's not spoiled enough. She's not rich enough. She's not popular enough when she's literally the richest, whitest, most popular girl in school. And that's not good enough for her. She also wants the hottest boyfriend who turns out to be gay. So when she can't have the gay guy, she settles for her fucking stepbrother? Ew. I have a lot of issues with Clueless, but overall, yeah, if you can ignore the problematic elements, it's a fun movie. Equally problematic in its own way, but infinitely more fun is She's All That, which I would still argue, despite its issues, is probably my greatest favorite romantic teen comedy of all time. She's All That, again, it's another one where everybody's privileged. Everybody's, rich kids. The main character is a jerk who's dating a girl who's not only the most popular girl in school, but also leaves him to date a pseudo-celebrity, a reality TV star, we'll say, pseudo-celebrity. Today we would say influencer, but they didn't have that term back in 1999 when that movie came out. And again, his ego is so hurt that his popular girlfriend dumped him that when his douchebag best friend dares him, basically, to pick a random loser to take to the prom and make prom queen, he takes the bet. And not only does he, hurt the girl in the process repeatedly, he also loses the fucking bet because, he's an asshole and deserved to lose the bet. Because high school prom politics is way more complicated than... No, it isn't. It's literally the hottest, most popular kid is prom queen. I was the student council president in my high school, and it is definitely a popularity contest. I was a white kid who could rap, break dance, and scratch records on the turntables. So obviously I was popular. It was a small school. Not a lot of white kids in my school. Mostly Hispanic and African American teenagers. So yeah, I fit in really well, but at the same time, I was like, whatever. So I kind of understand, you got to be a douchebag if you want to be popular, because I was popular, and yeah, I wasn't a great person in high school, to be fair. But to also be fair, my role models that I was seeing in the movies weren't that great to begin with. Next up is Can't Hardly Wait. This one is also you know, it's fun if you turn your brain off and you ignore the problematic elements, because it's just literally a high school party, graduation party, you know, basically a kegger, you know, wild, crazy shit, wacky, zany comedy bits, loser nerd trying to lose his virginity, loser nerd professing his love to a girl he has literally never even said hi to. And that's the whole point of the movie, is he has put her on a pedestal and made her out to be this goddess that he worships, when he doesn't even know literally anything substantial about her. All he knows is what her favorite Pop-Tart is. That's it. He's in love with her because her favorite Pop-Tart is his favorite Pop-Tart. That's douchebaggery 101. Treating women like objects and not treating them like people, which is a running theme in most of these 90s teen movies. I can rewatch Can't Hardly Wait, but I have to I'm going to cringe while I do so, because they do casually drop some very problematic insults. The forbidden F word and the R word and a few others pop up. Not good. The other one is 10 Things I Hate About You, which is the least problematic of all the 90s teen comedies, I would say. Also came out in 99, so it's like right at the tail end of the 90s. Again, it's another one. The girl is, the characters are basically selfish. The rich kid wants to date the pretty girl, who's also basically rich. But she can't date because her dad doesn't let her unless her older sister dates. So she bribes a, I'm just going to say, not jock, but, what do you call it? Just basically a greaser, I guess, or the equivalent of a 90s greaser, to date the sister because she's kind of punk-ish. And so, he takes the money and pretends to date her. She finds out that, again, like she's all that, she finds out it's a bet, and she gets pissed off, and then he's like, well, I'll bribe her with an electric guitar. And basically is like, yeah, by the way, I forgot to tell you I'm rich. And she's like, yeah, so am I. And then they fall in love. Whatever. These aren't necessarily bad movies, but rewatching them today, it's kind of like, holy shit, what the fuck was wrong with us in the 90s? There are a shit ton of other 90s teen comedies, but those are the big, what was that, 5? The big 5, I guess. The biggest ones. Yes, I also watched Mallrats recently, but I'm not gonna touch Mallrats. That movie, as far as I'm concerned, is off limits. But anyways, I've already done a whole video once recently on Kevin Smith movies. Yeah, lots of things were wrong in the 90s. You're not wrong about that. Overall, I would say yes, we put on rose-tinted nostalgia glasses when we watch these movies, because if we don't, you can't watch these movies. Now, to be fair, as problematic as the 90s teen movies are, they're not a fraction as problematic as the 80s teen movies, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. So that's my movie discussion today. I've never seen Varsity Blues. I know nothing. I know nothing about that movie. Let's move on to our comic book discussion. This one is a broader comic book topic than I usually tackle, but it's also more focused. And it's basically just Batman. I'm going to be talking about basically all things Batman, from comics to toys to movies, video games, etc. I love Batman. He's my favorite superhero, even though he's not technically a superhero. But he is a crime fighter, but he's also a detective, but he's also a bajillionaire. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Bruce Wayne, but I also really like Batman. But yeah, like most people, I was introduced to Batman basically as an infant. My dad was into the Adam West TV show, so he showed me that as soon as I was old enough to sit down and watch television. And whenever my parents would buy me comic books, usually they would buy me a Batman-related comic book, along with the X-Men comic books, which I was also actively collecting at the time and still am. I have a pretty big X-Men comic book collection. Not as big of a Batman collection as I would like, because I focus heavily on X-Men, because I'm more of an X-Men person than Batman, but I love Batman. And then in the early 90s, Fox Kids gave us Batman the Animated Series, which is a legendary series that is very fondly remembered, and I'm going to be very careful how I talk about it, because I know I'll get, crucified if I say the wrong thing. There were also the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher, Warner Brothers live action. Maybe. I don't know. Well, yes, I'll say yes, because in the early Superman comic books, Lex Luthor actually had psychic powers, but they either phased that out over the years, or I guess after the Crisis incident, we got a different Lex Luthor that didn't have psychic powers, but originally Lex Luthor did have psychic powers. So I would say Lex Luthor was originally a supervillain. Batman never was. But I'm not that familiar with modern day Lex Luthor, so I can't comment any further than that. There was also the live action Batman movies. There were 4 of them, starting in 1989 with Batman, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. We got Batman Returns, which added Michelle Pfeiffer and God, what the fuck is the fat dude's name? Give me a second. Danny DeVito, there it is. Then we got the best of the 4. I don't care what anyone says. Sorry, Gavi. Batman Forever, with the best Batman ever, Val Kilmer. I know everybody loves Michael Keaton because everybody has brain damage, but I'm sorry. And then maybe I'm the one with brain damage. I don't know. I was dropped on my head as a kid. I had to have stitches and emergency surgery. So, anyways. And then we had the black sheep of the family, Batman and Robin, which, look, I love it. I think it's a great movie. I don't understand why people hate it, because it was very much in line with those other 3 movies, and it was a natural progression of where that series was going, because they were making references and homages to the Adam West series from basically the very beginning. We still had several versions of Batman toy lines throughout the 80s and 90s. You had the Toy Biz ones, you had the ones based on the movies, you had the ones based on the animated show, you had the ones based on, you had the Super Friends, and you had the ones based on the just the generic comic book ones. There were a lot of Batman toys back then. Well, there still are. And then you had video games, Batman 89 on the NES, and also the same game on the Sega Genesis. Fantastic fucking game. There were some, I would say, comparable Batman titles to those 2 on the Game Boy. There was the Batman and Robin. Not Batman and Robin, excuse me. Yeah, no, there was Batman and Robin. There was also Batman Returns. There was Batman the Animated Series, the game. Plenty of Batman to go around. If you were a fan of Batman, there were plenty of Batman video games to satiate you. And there still are. The Arkham family of games are also pretty good. So yes and no. The Batman Forever and Batman and Robin live action films are in the same film universe as the 2 previous Tim Burton ones. We can say this fairly definitively because they all feature the same Alfred, and they all feature the same Commissioner Gordon. And they do loosely reference events from the previous films. Like, you do see some of the costumes of the villains in the Arkham Asylum in Batman and Robin from the previous films. He makes a reference in one of the movies to Catwoman as a paramour that was a bad idea. Things like that. So yeah, they do kind of reference the movies. Yes, Pat Hingle, who is, never mind Commissioner Gordon, he was a million times more enjoyable as the Big Boss Man in that's not his name. I forgot the character's name. But Maximum Overdrive is a much more better Pat Hingle movie than the Batman movies. He's fine in the Batman movies, but Maximum Overdrive is where he shines. He is asshole boss to the max. You really hate him, but you also love him because he's like such an asshole. You're like, dude, you suck and you're gonna die. And when he does die, you're like, fuck yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the different aspects of Batman. Let's start with the toys because I'm a toy collector. My very first Batman-related toy was a Michael Keaton Batman action figure from the 1989 Batman toy line. It was the one that had the ripcord on the belt. It had the little bat symbol on the belt, and you pulled it out, and it was like the little and it would just like fly up. I also had the one with the removable bat chest and helmet where you could remove the costume and turn him into Bruce Wayne. I also had the big plastic Batmobile as well as the Hot Wheels Batmobile and the Burger King, I believe it was, or McDonald's. I can't remember which one. Batmobile. I believe Mask of the Phantasm. I believe it was set in the Batman the Animated Series universe that was running concurrently. But I don't think it was connected to the live action films, but it did come out, I believe, in between Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but I'm not 100% on that. I've never seen it. I only had 2 toys from the Batman and Batman Returns toy line. I had the Penguin with, not the Penguin Danny DeVito, but I had the Penguin soldier with the missile launcher on its back. And I had the Penguin from Batman, the character Penguin from Batman and Robin, or Batman Returns, goddamn the names. But it was not based on Danny DeVito. It was a repaint of a previously released, I believe, Toy Biz Penguin action figure, which I do have that Toy Biz Penguin action figure somewhere in my collection. But it was basically a repaint of that. Those were the only 2 Batman and Batman Returns toys I had besides the, I can't remember, I'm just going to say the fast food toys. I don't remember if they were Burger King or McDonald's, but I had the Penguin fast food toy, and I had the Catwoman and the Batman, one of the Batman and the Batmobile and some others. I don't remember. Because I went to Burger King or McDonald's or whichever fast food it was, before I went to the movie, because me and my sister got to go see Batman Returns in the theater. One of 2 Batman movies I've seen in the theater in my entire life. The second one was Batman and Robin. That one I went with my dad, opening night. We were the only ones in the theater opening night. Yeah, that movie was not well received, by the way. But y'all already knew this. Overall, I would say the various Batman toy lines in the 90s, especially, and even today with the DC, DC Multiverse or whatever the toy line is called, they're still pretty good. Batman has always been really good in terms of toys. They've always made good Batman toys. Solid action figures. They always get good representation of the villains. They even get the obscure villains that you wouldn't expect. They always have rock solid play sets and vehicles. Batman toys are actually pretty good for toys. Comic books, obviously, Batman comic books are dope as shit. I am not 1,000% on this, but I think the first Batman comic I read was actually a Robin comic book. I do not remember the details of the story. It had something to do with Robin lamenting something. He was like whining the whole issue, and I was really pissed off that that's all it was. There was like no action at all, and I was just like, this is stupid. So I initially, 5-year-old, 6-year-old me was like, Batman comics are dumb. So I didn't get into the comics. I was into toys and video games and the movies. I would discover Batman comics years later. My first collected edition, which was a trade paperback, was a compilation of the DC comics that were the inspiration for the 1960s live action Adam West TV series. So they were the comic book stories that were a little more over the top and, just like hijinks, heavily focused on the Joker and Catwoman and the Riddler as your main villains. Basically, it's a trade paperback that collects the issues that were the inspiration for the Adam West TV series, which I really enjoyed. I do have the Dark Knight. I have the Long Halloween. I have the what's it called? I think it's called the Dark Knight Returns or something like that. I do have. Let's just say I've got 10 or 12 Batman trade paperbacks. I've got all of the ones you would expect a Batman fan to have. Let's just say that. The ones you're supposed to have. I have all of them, basically, even the Harley Quinn one, the Joker one, all the big ones. I've read them all. They're pretty good. I used to have DC Unlimited or DC Universe or whatever the fuck it was called, their digital service. I don't even know if it's still around. I lost my train of thought. I was trying to catch up on the live chat. I apologize. What was I? Comics. So I did go back and start at the beginning, the first Detective Comics appearance of Batman, and I read basically all the way through Detective Comics and Batman and Superman comic books all the way through the 60s. And I would say I'm more of a fan of the old school Batman comics. I like everything basically up to about the 70s. I don't like the darker tone that they've taken Batman in, since the 80s. And I was not a fan of the Mark Miller stuff. I'm sorry. I wasn't. I don't like darker, brooding Batman. I like happy-go-lucky, fun Batman, which is why I liked Batman Forever and Batman and Robin better than most people. I want my Joker to be a clown, not a sadistic motherfucker like the Heath Ledger Joker. I'm not a fan of the Heath Ledger Joker. I hate that Joker. And I hate the Joker from the movie Joker. I hate that Joker too. My favorite modern Joker, people are going to fucking piss on me, I guess. I like the Jared Leto Joker in the Suicide Squad. I want a more over-the-top Joker. I don't want a mob boss. I don't. That's boring. We've already got 10,000 mob bosses in the Batman universe. We don't need another one. Anyways, but to be fair, the Joker's not my favorite Batman villain. Anyways, the Penguin is. My number 2 is the Riddler. My number 3 is Harley Quinn. My number 4 is Catwoman. Number 5 is Two-Face. It takes a long time before I get all the way down to Joker. He's one of my least favorite Batman villains. I just don't like the Joker. I don't hate him. He's just like, I get it. He's iconic, etc. Blah blah blah. But it's like he's overplayed. It's like, yeah, use him a little bit less. Use the Joker about 40% less than they do, and I could tolerate him a little more than I can. He's just way over fucking used. And I get sick to goddamn death of which is the best Joker? I hate that when people ask that question. All right, let's catch up on the chat. Even Batmite. I don't know what Batmite is. He was, but he was also kind of Jared Leto was also kind of over the top. He wasn't as I don't know. I just liked that Jared Leto. I just liked that Joker. I also like the Jack Nicholson Joker, who actually is mob boss. So I guess I'm kind of contradictory. I think mostly what I don't like about the Heath Ledger Joker is the fact that he does no gags at all. There's no jokes at all. There's no, acid coming out of his lapel flower. There's no hand buzzer that's going to electrocute you to death. There's no balloons that are filled with poison. Nothing. It's just, I have a knife and I cut people's throats because ha 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 ha. Okay, so you're a street thug with a mask. I want to clarify. I don't hate the Heath Ledger Joker. He's just not my favorite. I also, again, kind of contradictory to what I've already said. I apologize. I don't like the Cesar Romero Joker either. He's too over the top. I loved the Gotham interpretation of Penguin. I liked the Burgess Meredith Penguin from the TV series. And I didn't hate the Danny DeVito Penguin. I liked, because Penguin's my favorite Batman villain. So I'm more willing to accept a different interpretation of the Penguin, I guess, than I am the Joker for some reason. But I love Harley Quinn. And I actually like Harley Quinn even when she's pining for the Joker. But I also like her when she's, running around doing her escapades with Poison Ivy. So I don't know. I don't always make sense. I apologize. The Batman movies from the post-90s, however, as a whole are too serious for my tastes. I like Batman Begins. It's a nice introduction to the character. I like Batman. I like The Dark Knight. It's a fun movie overall. Probably one of the best comic book movies ever, maybe, possibly. I haven't seen The Batman yet, which I'm going to get to that in a second. I did like the Batman v Superman movie. I did not hate the Zack Snyder DC movies. I don't know which all ones he did, but I liked the Justice League. I liked Aquaman. I liked both Wonder Woman movies. I liked the Suicide Squad. Haven't seen the Suicide Squad. I want to clarify. Basically, I liked the one with Will Smith. Haven't seen the pseudo remake, I guess. And then I hated Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises is probably, to date, the only live-action Batman movie I actively hate. For a lot of reasons I don't want to get into here. I'll probably do a whole video on that one of these days. Video games, I want to take a detour back to that for a second. Batman has been basically represented in video game form on every major video game console since the NES. I don't know if there was a Batman Atari game or not. I do know there was a Superman game, which is better than people say, and a Spider-Man game, which is better than people say. But I don't know if Batman existed on the Atari or not, so I should look into that. But I know, starting with the 8-bit NES on, I will say pretty broadly, they've never made a bad Batman video game in my experience. Can't say that about Superman. Obviously, the Nintendo 64 is a notorious rubbish game. But I did really like the Arkham games. I did really like the Batman games on the GameCube. They were pretty fun. And I'm sure they were probably on the PS2 or Xbox, maybe. I would assume. But those were fun games. I can honestly say I've never played a bad Batman video game. I can honestly say that. Now, I'm not saying they don't exist. They might. Just if they do exist, I haven't played it. Yeah, the 1990 NES Batman game, which was also on the Sega Genesis, by the way. It's the exact same game, just with enhanced graphics, etc. I actually have the soundtrack to that on Spotify, and I listen to it regularly because it's one of the best video game soundtracks ever. Batman cartoons. We have to talk about the cartoons. Okay. So when I say I don't like cartoons, what I basically mean is I'm not enamored by animation. So usually when I see something is in a cartoon form, it's an automatic meh for me. But I can be won over if it's got good quality animation and fun storylines. I did like the Super Friends era Batman cartoons. I did like the Batman, the animated series from the 90s. For the most part, I have to specify. I stopped liking it when it became the Adventures of Batman and Robin. And I haven't seen a Batman animated television program since then that I found interesting. But I did enjoy that Justice League cartoon from the early 2000s. That one was fun, and Batman is a big part of it. I would say I'm more open to watching a superhero or heavily sci-fi themed cartoon than I am mostly anything else. However, I also really do have a soft spot for Scooby-Doo. So that's where that's the big exception for me is I really love Scooby-Doo cartoons, and I like Hanna-Barbera cartoons in general. But not much beyond that. I don't really care for, The Simpsons or Family Guy or King of the Hill. None of that shit. Don't really care for the Nicktoons or the comedy, not Comedy Central. What the fuck is it? Cartoon Network. I don't care for their cartoons. I don't like Cat Dog or SpongeBob or any of that shit. Batman, the Batman. I have to talk about the Batman. Okay, I love Batman as a character. He's one of my favorite superheroes. I love Batman. I've enjoyed most of the Batman movies, a lot of the Batman cartoons, nearly every Batman video game I've played, and most of the Batman comics I've read. So I really do enjoy Batman. But the Batman came out around the time I had been burned out on superhero movies. So not only did I not see the Batman, I also haven't seen a superhero movie since. I think the last superhero movie I watched was Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness, which I only watched because it was a Sam Raimi helmed horror film dressed up in a comic book costume, which I love because I love Sam Raimi and I love horror. So I liked that movie. But everything else I've been avoiding. Everything that Marvel is doing, I'm not watching any of it. Everything DC is doing, I'm not watching any of it. The last DC live action movie I watched was either Suicide Squad or Wonder Woman 84, whichever one came out last. I did watch Shazam, actually. I take that back. I did watch Shazam last summer, and I did watch The Flash, but I didn't go to the theater to see it. But I'm just so burned out on superhero movies and comic book movies that I need them to take a 5-year break from Batman movies before I watch another one. I will likely eventually watch The Batman, but not anytime soon. Like, and when I say not anytime soon, definitely not in 2024. Probably not in 2025. I need a big old long break from superhero movies before I can go back and watch any of the ones I missed out on. I'm okay with rewatching ones I've already seen from time to time, but I kind of need a break. We just got too goddamn many too goddamn fast. I haven't seen Shazam 2 yet, and I probably won't for a while. And I haven't seen the other one. What was it, Black Adam or whatever? I haven't seen it either. Honestly, I don't think there's a single superhero movie coming out in the near future that I'm interested in. I only go to I only go to the cinema once a year. I'm poor and I have a social anxiety disorder and I'm handicapped. I walk with a limp. I need a cane to walk. So I don't like to go out in public that often, and I definitely don't like to go to crowded movie theaters. So I've limited myself pretty much to one movie in cinemas a year. Last year it was Barbie. This year it's going to be Beetlejuice. And that's it. Everything else I'll watch at home on my laptop or my phone. So let's cycle back to Batman specific. What do I want from Batman? Well, I loved Gotham, and I didn't even talk about Gotham, really. I'll tell you what I don't want. I don't want any more movies for at least just give me 2 more years. Just give me 2 solid years where we don't do anything with Batman. Movies or TV shows or cartoons or animated films, nothing. Just give me 2 years till I catch my fucking breath. What would I like to see from a Batman movie? One thing, I don't want to see the origin story ever again. We've seen it. We've done that. I'm over it. I don't need to see that again. I would like a return to the Joel Schumacher universe. I know he's dead and can't make movies anymore, and Tim Burton probably couldn't make a Batman movie like that if he tried, because he's lost his mind and fallen off a cliff in recent years. Beetlejuice actually comes out on my birthday, which is September this year, so I'm going to go see it on my birthday. That's the plan, anyways. Obviously, I can't predict the future. A bajillion things could happen between now and then that stops me from going, but the plan is to see Beetlejuice on my birthday. I don't think Beetlejuice will still be in theaters when October rolls around. It might have staying power, but that's a long ass time to be in movie theaters these days. Most movies get like 3 or 4 weeks and then they're straight to streaming, and then you never get another chance to see them in cinemas again. I would like to see more Justice League movies, and Batman can be in any Justice League movie they make. I don't care. I'm fine with that. I'd also, I would really like to see a return to the Adam West style Batman. If they do another live action film, I'd like them to just go full on hokey, cheesy, just like ham it up. I'd like to see a return to that. Maybe not a full on trilogy or ongoing cinematic series or universe, but a one off, hilarious B movie Batman would be fun. I'd like to like them to give that another try. Because I'm really not a fan of the dark and brooding, sinister, edgier Batman. I'm not. I want the lighthearted Batman. Which is where I am going to cycle back to the Batman the Animated Series. Like I said, I enjoyed it for the most part. But honestly, it was a little too boring for me week after week. So it was like I don't know, I'm going to guess 22 episode season, roughly, probably thereabouts. There's maybe 4 or 5 episodes per season I enjoy. So like as a whole, no, I don't like the series as a whole that much. But there's enough individual episodes that I did enjoy. I'm not going to say I don't enjoy the series. It's just like, mathematically speaking, there's more Batman the Animated Series I don't like than there is that I do like. Honestly, I'd like to, and I don't know what Warner Brothers is doing with the Hanna-Barbera properties, but I'd like to see a Hanna-Barbera style Batman animated show as well. Superman. Okay, I'm not going to dig into Superman. That's another topic for a future video. But I like Superman comic books. I do not like anything at all Superman that isn't in the comic books. I don't like his video games. Not a big fan of his toys. Never liked any of his animated shows. And I don't love his movies. Out of all the Superman movies that exist, where Superman is the main character or his name is in the title, out of all of them, I literally only like one, and that's Superman 2. That's it. I hated the other Christopher Reeves Batman movies, Superman movies, hated them. I hated Batman or Superman. God, I'm getting tongue-tied. The one with Kevin Spacey. What was it? Superman Returns or whatever the fuck it was called. And I have not seen The Man of Steel, and I have no desire to rush out and watch it. I'm not in a big hurry to see that Superman movie. I did enjoy Batman versus Superman, but it was kind of a one-off. It was like I watched it, I liked it, but I don't need to see it again. I didn't hate it, but I'm not like, oh, I got to see this again. Nah, it's too goddamn long. It's a 3-hour movie. Fuck that noise. That's all I got from my comic book discussion. I don't have a big retail topic this week, but I do want to touch on online shopping woes. So, online shopping has pretty much become the norm for a lot of people, for a lot of things. I still do prefer to actually get in my car and drive to a store and, browse the aisles and touch things and look at the boxes and examine them myself before I put them in my shopping cart and take them home. But I don't live in a major metro area, so that's not an option for most things I'm interested in. I collect comic books. We do not have a comic book shop in town. I collect vintage action figures. We do not have a store in town that sells those. So in order to buy toys and comic books and even retro video games, because our one used video game store kind of sucks, and I don't count GameStop as a used video game store either because it's basically a Funko Pop shop these days. But I have to buy video games, comic books, and toys online, and that's where I spend most of my money, most of my discretionary money, I should say. Any extra money, any extra spending money I have, that's where it goes. Toys, there's not a lot of options. There are a ton of toy stores, but they're all basically overpriced. All of them. And they heavily cater to the affluent adult collector that wants, $300 statues that are going to sit in a box on their shelf. That's not me. I'm the toy collector that wants a $15 to $20 action figure that I'm going to rip out of the box and not just put on my shelf, but play with and have fun and make videos of it. Because I'm a dork and I like to play with my toys. And I'm not ashamed. So in general, toys, comic books, comic book shopping online isn't terrible. eBay is a good place. Amazon is a good place. Video games, well, by and large, buying video games online has been the standard at least since 2006. So we collectively as gamers have pretty much gotten used to we're buying our video games online. I don't know if anybody goes to their local Walmart to buy video games anymore. I certainly haven't in so long. I can't remember the last game I bought at a store. I just don't do that anymore. But there's other things that we buy online. Clothes, sometimes groceries, although I try to avoid buying groceries online. Shoes. I don't wear makeup right now, mostly because I can't afford it and I'm out of makeup. And yes, I haven't been shaving. I did shave today, but my razor is clogged up and I need to take it apart and clean it, which is why I'm not getting close shaves right now. I I probably would go back to wearing makeup if I had a full, product line and a mirror to sit down and do it at. But I don't have those things right now. So it's like not a high priority for me, but I would never buy makeup online. That's something you have to go to the store to buy. Clothes are I'm very cautious buying clothes online. Because again, you want to use the dressing room to make sure they fit how you expect. You can't do that with Amazon. Yeah, I know there's the return policy. You buy it, you get it in the mail the next day. You try it on, and if it don't fit, you put it back in the box and send it back. But that's a fucking hassle. It takes like 4 days to buy some, especially dresses off of Amazon that are, quality. Because they always say extra large, but when you get it, it's like, is this extra large for a 12-year-old? Jesus Christ. Because for whatever reason, Amazon's clothes are teeny tiny. All of them, all across the board. It's like they're making clothes for little people and children. Can you update the toy shopping playlist? Oh yes. My plan is to update all of the playlists today after I finish this live stream. I just haven't gotten around to it. I apologize. I need to be more on top of that stuff. It just I am back to working full time again, and I work 12-hour days. So the days I do work eats up my entire day. And when I get home from work, I don't want to do anything. I just want to call my girlfriend and basically Discord video chat with her until it's time for bed. I think I don't really have much I can really say about. So I don't really have much I can say about online shopping other than like, one, read the fucking description and look at the photographs. And if the listing doesn't have photographs, don't buy that product. Buy from somebody that puts photographs on their listings. And if they're using stock photos, don't buy from them either, because you want a picture of the actual thing you're buying, not a stock photo. So definitely read the damn description, but also be very cautious when buying electronics on eBay or Amazon. Not only do you need to verify the company makes the product that they're allegedly selling, because I've been burned on that too many times. Also, like, check the seller, and don't just look at their feedback rating, because they can game that. Actually read the feedback comments. And if they're hostile to people that give them negative feedback, don't waste your time dealing with them. Go to somebody else. Because a good seller is not going to be hostile to someone who gave them negative feedback. A good seller is going to say, I'm really sorry that this was confusing, or it wasn't what it was, or, let me make it right. No, instead, the shitty sellers are like, you don't know how to use the product, or you didn't read the description. Fuck off. Just eat shit. Especially if you're selling like pirated flash drives. Because when you point out to these assholes that they're selling pirated products, they just turn into basically monsters. But again, like, if you send a question to a seller and they're not friendly when they respond to you, don't buy from them either. I know in our world of instant gratification, we just want to type in what we're looking for, find the first one that has a price we're willing to pay, hit buy it now, and then wait for it to show up in 2 days. But you got to do a little legwork. You got to read descriptions. You got to read reviews. You've got to read the ratings and look at the pictures and email or message the seller. Because if you don't, you're going to get burned. 1,000%, you're eventually going to get burned. I can't tell you how many times I bought an action figure off of eBay, of especially wrestling figures, thinking I was getting a 4 or 5 inch action figure, fully articulated, made of plastic, and I get this little 2-inch metal fig. Fucking either sometimes it's on me because I didn't read the description. Like I said, my advice, read the description. But also, if you're listing shit, make sure you say it's a metal figure if it is a metal figure, because not everybody wants metal action figures. Because if I get a metal action figure in the mail and you didn't mark it as a metal action figure in the listing, I'm going to leave you negative feedback. Period. And if I contact you and say, hey, this was mislabeled, and your reply is, I don't care, then you're getting negative feedback, and I'm blacklisting you. Flash carts. Honestly, it depends. Flash carts. Oh God. Sega CD flash carts or memory card cartridges, I believe, are EPROMs. They are not flash memory. I think that's the same thing with Sega Saturn memory cartridges. PS1, PS2, and GameCube all use basically primitive proprietary flash memory, but not like SD flash memory. I don't know the technical specifications, but I know they're proprietary. Everything else, as far as game consoles and computers go, uses SD or SDHC, which are flash. I'm not that much knowledgeable about compact flash. I don't know that much about it. I only ever had one camcorder back in the day that used compact. I did not have a compact flash card reader on my computer at the time, so it was a pain in the ass to get video clips off of that camera onto the computer, because that camcorder used FireWire, which I also did not have a FireWire port on my computer. So I had to plug it into a adapter that was not a FireWire to USB adapter, because they didn't make those back then, because I don't even think they did exist. It was sort of like a hub, basically, that you plug the FireWire into, and it could also plug USB into it, and then you plugged that into the USB port on your computer. I know this is a tangent, but that was a pain in the fucking ass to do. Because you had to have the camera charged and powered on, and you had to use the proprietary software, and you had to boot it up and go through all that nightmare to transfer the files to the folder on your laptop or desktop or whatever. And then you had to use a different software to convert them to a usable file format. So it's that was a nightmare. I don't even remember who the fuck made that camera. I know it wasn't JVC. It was probably an off-brand, but I don't remember who it was. Might have been Kodak. In my experience, Kodak digital cameras are rubbish. Don't buy them. Sidebar. No, I didn't, and I don't know what Aliens game you're talking about. I do know this. Most of your retro video game systems do not have copy protection. SNES, NES, Sega CD, Genesis, Saturn, Nintendo 64. Those consoles, the 3DO, I believe, doesn't. The CDI doesn't. The TurboGrafx. So those consoles can play pirated games right off the bat. Not yet, but I got two more topics. I got a video game topic, which I'm getting ready to dive into, and a food topic and a music topic. So that's 3 more topics. I miscounted. But you can ask questions and I'll answer them as we go. I'm trying to. But basically, to wrap up the online retail topic, is basically just do your homework and don't be in a rush to buy things, is basically what I'm going to say. And buy from reputable sellers wherever you can. My video game topic, it's just a question. Virtual reality, yay or nay? That's it. Do you have any experience with virtual reality, and was it a pleasant or non-pleasant experience? For me, I can honestly say I'm 42 years old, and I have never, ever played virtual reality anything. I've never put on a VR headset. I've never done it. I have no experience with virtual reality. Uh, it isn't for lack of desire. I'd love to try it someday. It's mostly a lack of funds because VR is hella expensive as a product even today in general. And that includes the Virtual Boy. I've never played a Virtual Boy in my life. So I've got one person that says yes, VR is cool. Okay. Okay, Aliens 3 on PS1. Enter a cheat code and you can pop the disc and play burned games. Okay, so I've never heard of that, but you don't need that game to do that. Basically, if you your PS1, and not PS1 the small one, but your original Sony PlayStation, if you stick a paper clip in the door, the little clip that closes the door, and you put in any retail game, doesn't matter what it is, any retail game, and boot it up and get past the PlayStation screen, but before you actually get to the game itself, yank the disc out, pop in your burned disc, and then close the lid. That usually works. I have done this method. It does work, but it doesn't work with every game. Because first of all, you have to have the correct ROM image, and a lot of people, because the PSP was a thing and they wanted to put their PS1 games on the PSP, they compressed the ROM images to smaller files, and those will not work if you burn them onto a CD image. You have to have the actual ISO image to do this. Also, if you have a Game Shark, I understand there's a way that you can play pirated games on the PlayStation 1. This I have not tested. And also, if you have a mod chip, you should be able to as well. I cannot comment because I've never investigated playing pirated games on the PS2, so I don't know about the PS2. I've never even tried. I do know there's allegedly a way to put ROMs on a memory card and load them up on the PS2, but from reading the instructions on how to do that, it was way beyond my skill set. I have owned in the past a hacked Nintendo Wii. That's the easiest game console that, in my experience, to hack to play ROMs on. But it's a pain in the ass getting the emulators installed. The ROMs are easy to boot up. You put them on the SD card and it just finds them. But the emulators are a pain in the ass to boot up. In my experience, I've never tried hacking any other game consoles to play pirated games, and I'm very hesitant to try flash cartridges, ROM cartridges, that let you put the ROMs on the physical hardware. One, I don't have any physical hardware these days except for my Nintendo DS, and I just found my Game Boy Advance in a box in my closet the other day. So apparently I still have my GBA. I didn't know I still had it. I thought I left it in Dallas when I moved to Idaho. Okay, that's what I'm kind of afraid of when it comes to VR. I'd like it to be what we saw in the sci-fi movies in the 90s, Double Dragon, hackers, etc. But I'm scared that it isn't what we saw in the movies in the 90s. But anyways, yeah. I've had no experience with VR. I was just curious what other people thought of it. The only video game that I really, really, really want to play VR is Minecraft. But I'm scared that if I got Minecraft VR and it really is immersive, that I'm going to quit my job and just live in my car and play Minecraft VR for until I die. I would also probably enjoy Super Mario 64 VR. Can they give up and go back to Virtual Console for Switch 2? Oh goodness. I'm gonna say something that's going to be controversial, but I don't think Nintendo is making a Switch 2. I don't think they are. I think Nintendo is going to pull something out of their ass like they always do that might be compatible with Switch software. Probably either a cartridge port that lets you play Switch games on it, or some type of online backwards compatibility where if you bought the game on the eShop or whatever, you can play it. Possibly. I'm not 100% what they're going to do with that. If you asked me a year ago what was Nintendo's next hardware machine going to look like, I would have told you it's basically just going to be a tablet with an HDMI port and some type of Joy-Con connection, which is basically what the Switch is, but I mean like an actual legit tablet. I think they're going to do away with the dock and they're done with home consoles. I think they're done with home consoles. I don't think whatever they make next is going to natively hook up to your television like the Switch does. I don't think it will. I think Nintendo is firmly settled in they're a handheld company. I think they've basically been a handheld company since 2003. Wii aside, their home consoles since then have not been successful. And I will say, aside from the GameCube, because the Wii is rubbish, none of them have been technologically worth a shit since the GameCube. So I don't know. If you're asking me today, what is Nintendo doing? I'm going to say I have no clue, because I would have never, the Wii was pretty predictable if you saw what they were doing with the DS and when they showed off the virtual console at E3 and then they showed off the Wii remote, you could kind of tell the direction they were taking with the Wii. The DS was pretty predictable because they already were kind of doing that with the GBASP. The Wii U was out of left field, but looking at the Wii U, I pretty much predicted the Switch. Not like literally what it was going to be, but I was like, yeah, it's going to basically be the reverse Wii U. It's going to be a home console you can take with you everywhere. I didn't expect it to be a handheld that you could dock to your TV. But I did figure eventually Nintendo was just going to make their own gaming tablet, which is what I expected them to follow up the Switch with, but they didn't, or they haven't yet. So far, they haven't done anything with following up the Switch, but we're in kind of, to be honest, uncharted territory because Nintendo has released new home consoles every 5 years like clockwork. I mean, they had traditionally been the most predictable company when it comes to when are they going to release new hardware. And they've missed their window to do that this time around. So anything goes at this point in time. My joke response is they're just going to fucking sell you a cardboard box like they tried to do with Labo, but that's just me being a bitch. I don't hate Nintendo, don't get me wrong. I love Nintendo games. I love their games. I just have major issues with some of their hardware decisions. The Switch is probably, to me, the one hardware device they've made since the GameCube that I gave a shit about. I don't trust third-party companies at all when it comes to what they say Nintendo was doing, because they traditionally, historically have always been wrong. And third-party companies are notoriously not friendly to Nintendo. And Nintendo was notoriously not friendly to third-party companies. And so I see them forcing non-disclosure agreements whenever they show off what they're doing with third-party companies, and suing them into oblivion if they break those NDAs. So I wouldn't trust any third-party leaks that are suggesting what Nintendo was doing, because they've never been accurate. Third-party companies made it sound like the Wii was going to be on the level with the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and it decidedly wasn't. But they were talking about it like it was going to be. And even Karen Kaplan came out and said, it's going to be 2 to 3 times more powerful than the GameCube, and we're excited for it, and it wasn't. It was basically, hardware-wise, it was basically an overclocked GameCube. It was not 2 to 3 times more powerful than the GameCube. All right, so that's all I have for my video game topic. I was gonna talk. So I like to have a food topic on this show, and my food topic is gonna be pretty light. It's basically cookouts and barbecues. So the question is, what's your go-to barbecue? What's your go-to cookout food? And what do you like to do? What's your cookout look like? What's your cookout traditions? I grew up in Kansas, but lived in Texas for several years. For us, cookouts were setting up the charcoal grill. Hank Hill can eat shit. It has to be charcoal, or don't waste your time. Because you have to have flavor. Propane does not add flavor to the food. Charcoal is the way to go. But our go-to cookout barbecue was hot dogs on the grill, cooked until they were black, and hamburgers, no cheese. We did not cook cheeseburgers on the grill, but there's a reason for that. I don't want to get into it. And we would always fix up a big old jumbo bowl of potato salad. Now, when I moved to Texas, going to a barbecue or a cookout in Texas was a foreign experience to me, because it was crawfish, which are not food, and a whole goddamn pig, which was like, what the fuck are you doing? And for some reason, they would deep fry the turkey or deep fry the chicken at the bar. You know, for that's I don't think a fried chicken is barbecue food. Cookout food. No, fried chicken is like KFC food, restaurant food. That's not something I'm going to cook in my backyard. I've never had shrimp on a grill, but I did go to a cookout once when I was in Kansas, in Salina, Kansas. I went to a cookout once. I believe it was the 4th of July, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been Labor Day, but it was one of those 2 days. And they were doing shish kebabs, which was like little chunks of beef and vegetables and onions, which I guess technically onions are vegetables. And basically, they just asked you what you wanted on your shish kebab, and they handed you a metal stick, and you stuck it in the fire yourself and held it there until you were satisfied and ate it off the stick. I was not a fan of that experience. Now, let's go back to crawfish for a brief second. The reason why I said they're not food is because I'm not touching a bug, and that's all it is. It's a fucking bug. And so the only way to eat a crawfish is to have utensils to crack it open and scoop out the meat, which is like this much meat in this gigantic crawfish. You get a little bit of meat. Now, the meat is damn good. Crawfish meat, delicious, especially the way they cook it in Texas. But it's not worth it for all the work you have to go through to get to, a centimeter's worth of meat. You basically have to eat 300 crawfish to get a hot dog's worth of meat. It's not worth it. And it's just not. For me, the barbecue experience also, you should also have, in addition to the potato salad, I like to have a bag of potato chips, just regular old Lay's potato chips, plain salted chips. I don't want flavored chips at my barbecue, not even barbecue flavored chips, and I don't want dip at my barbecue. One, you're eating outside in the sun. That dip is going to be moldy within 5 minutes, so don't eat it. And two, that's not the barbecue experience. Now, I have cooked fish on a barbecue, but that's usually a camping thing. That's not a cookout thing. But I don't have a problem cooking fish on a grill. When I do that, I want a potato to go with my fish. So I would wrap the potato in foil and just throw it in the fire and then stamp out the fire when it's done and eat the potato. I would like to try barbecuing steak one of these days. Probably a beef steak, not a pork steak, probably. And if I did cook a steak for a barbecue, grill cookout, Labor Day, 4th of July, whatever, I'm probably going to have a baked potato to go with it. I don't think I would have potato chips with a steak. I just don't think that's, or potato salad. You can eat prawns whole if you can't be bothered to peel them. I don't know what a prawn is. I don't think I've ever had that. I do not eat watermelon. Watermelon is offensive to my taste buds. It makes me gag. I hate watermelon. Except I like watermelon Jolly Ranchers, so go figure. I don't remember seeing Texas Roadhouse when I was in Texas, but I didn't look for it. I remember seeing Whataburger on every street corner, and what's it called? What the fuck is it called? Cracker Barrel is real popular in Texas for some ungodly reason, and Dickey's Barbecue is real popular in Texas. Prawns are shrimp pre-peeling. Ew. I don't think I would want to try that. I've only ever tried lobster once in my life. It was just lobster tail. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to eat lobster. I didn't hate it, but by and large, I'm not a fan of seafood. If I'm going to eat shrimp, I want popcorn shrimp, and I want them breaded and deep fried. That's the only way I'll eat shrimp. And I know I'm weird, but I dip them in ranch dressing, not the red sauce. I hate the red sauce, whatever the fuck it is. I do not like that stuff. I'm going to dip my shrimp in ranch dressing or smother them in ketchup because I like to put ketchup on things other people don't. All right, that's pretty much it for the food topic. Let's get into my final topic before we get into random thoughts. This is my music topic, and it's basically Marilyn Manson and 90s shock rock. So, putting aside the fact that Brian Warner is a human scumbag, we have to get that off right off the bat. His music, on the other hand, or at least his band's music, was real big, real popular in the 90s. And he had a lot of copycats, even though he himself was sort of a copycat. He was kind of a Nine Inch Nails spinoff, if you will. Trent Reznor helped produce one of his early records. I believe it was Smells Like Children, if I'm not mistaken. Not their best work, but it had one of his best songs on that record, which was his rendition of Sweet Dreams, which is, I would argue, the preferable version of that song. I discovered Marilyn Manson when he came out with the album Antichrist Superstar. I lived in Nebraska at the time. My parents were Baptists. My dad was a deacon. My mom was a Sunday school teacher. So it was very much, this is the devil's music. Don't listen to it. So I was like, okay, I want to listen to it. And of course, the first song I listened to by Marilyn Manson came on the radio one day was The Beautiful People, which is to this day one of my favorite songs. I listen to it at least 3 to 5 times a day, if not more. It's in like 70% of my playlists on Spotify. That song is going to be on it for one reason or another. I did like his music videos. I'm a horror nut, and his music videos have a lot of horror movie imagery in them. And I mentioned Copycats. Even though he came out earlier, I would argue Rob Zombie was definitely what he was doing in the 90s was kind of a response to Marilyn Manson, especially with the Hellbilly Deluxe or whatever the fuck that CD was called. Was very much a post-Manson album. Yeah, I pretty much have a Spotify playlist, which is just titled Retropalooza, that has all my favorite 90s songs, and The Beautiful People is on that playlist. It's also on my favorites playlist. It's on my Halloween and horror movie music playlist. It's in pretty much every playlist I have has The Beautiful People on it. Now, I love Antichrist Superstar as an album. As a whole, it's my favorite Marilyn Manson album. However, there are only 4 songs I like on the Mechanical Animals album, but those specific songs I like a little bit more than the vast majority of the individual songs on Antichrist Superstar. So as much as I listen to The Beautiful People, I listen to The Dope Show even more. I also was drawn to Marilyn Manson at the time because I was a closeted trans woman, and I was secretly cross-dressing when my parents didn't know. Or if they did know, they didn't talk about it. And Marilyn Manson was also a cross-dresser in his music videos, kind of, sort of. So that appealed to me. When I was in high school, I was in a band, and the character I wanted to play, because I wanted to dress up like a goth character for the band, the goth character I wanted to play was called the Retro Witch, which I eventually did turn into a YouTube character for a brief period a few years ago, and then I kind of stopped doing it. But I wanted to be in a shock rock type goth band similar to Marilyn Manson, where everybody dressed up like horror movie characters. But my very Baptist parents were like, nope, you're not doing that. So it wasn't something I ever got to do. Beyond Manson himself, there wasn't a ton of the shock rock in the 90s I did like. I listened to Rob Zombie a little bit, 9 Inch Nails a little bit. And I don't know if it counts as shock rock or not, but I discovered Powerman 5000 last year, which is a band that was around when I was a teenager. I just never listened to them. And had I listened to them when I was a teenager, they definitely would have made my regular rotation. Absolutely. Because I definitely listened to, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but there's one Powerman 5000 song I listen to pretty much daily. I think it's called When Worlds Collide, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I have a hard time with names. I think that's what it's called. I really like that song. I wish I had known about them when I was a teenager. I think they're more electronica, but I would argue Prodigy is in the goth shock rock family. They might be a distant cousin to shock rock, I guess, goth rock, but they're in the family. Especially their album "Smack My Bitch Up." I'm inclined to put Rammstein in that camp, but I don't speak German. I don't know what the fuck they're singing about, so I don't know. I like their music. I just don't know what the fuck they're singing about. So I'm like, I don't know. They could be talking about cats and butterflies for all I know. Like most teenagers of the 90s, I was really heavily drawn to alternative music. And I don't mean, when I say alternative, I do not mean the grunge rock that people today mean when they say alternative. I mean like Beck and Cake and Veruca Salt and stuff like that. You know, like the real garbage, stuff like that. Like the really different, like legit alternative stuff. Not the mainstream, you know, I call it dirt rock, but everybody else calls it grunge. Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, and all that garbage. I was not a fan of none of that shit. I like literally one Nirvana song. Literally one. And it's the song that everybody likes. It Smells Like Teen Spirit. That's the only one of their songs I can stomach. The rest of their music bores me to tears. And then you can say the same thing with all the grunge. Whether it's Alice in Chains or Stone Temple Pilots or Tonic. It's all the same to me. It's just fucking noise. None of that shit's any good. I hate it all. I was also real big into electronic music in the 90s, but I've talked about that ad nauseum, so there's no point in going back down that road. As far as rock goes in the 90s, for me, it was mostly Marilyn Manson. Yes, I'll admit it, but I'm not going to defend it. I did listen to Limp Bizkit. What are you going to do about it? I mean, I was 17 when their big album came out. I can't remember what it's called. The one with break stuff on it. I listened to that song all the goddamn time back in the day. I wasn't really big into rock music back then, but if I was going to listen to rock music, it had to be shock rock or something weird and quirky like Garbage, or else I wasn't interested. I dabbled in U2 because they were like the biggest band on the face of the earth at the time, and so they were unavoidable, but I never got into U2. I tried. I bought 5 of their CDs, listened to all 5 of them, and collectively liked one song out of all 5 of those CDs. And it was one song off of their pop album, which wasn't even really their usual type of music. I don't even remember what that song was called, to tell you the truth. I don't listen to it anymore. It's not in any of my playlists. But that was the only U2 song I liked out of all of their entire catalog. Not a fan of U2. I did have, and I don't know what you classify them as musically, I did have one Collective Soul CD. It was their self-titled Collective Soul CD. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. Would usually just put it on when I was bored, let it play, and then swap it out for Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise album, and then just be like, all right, this is music. Not a big fan of rock, 90s rock. I don't know anything at all about modern rock music, so I don't know if shock rock is even a term in our modern vernacular. I don't know if there is still such a thing as shock rock these days. I don't know. Even if there was, I probably wouldn't be into it anymore. But that's all I have to say about that. We've reached the point of the video where I go into random thoughts, which is basically the Q&A and just whatever pops into my head. And first things first, say hello to Buddy. Hi, Buddy. He's sitting on my arm, purring away. And he's been sitting here the entire video. Literally the entire video. I've been petting him this whole time. He's a good cat. He's also an orange cat. which I don't have what you would classify as a preference in regards to cats. I love them all. But if I had my way, I would have a black cat for sure. And probably a calico cat. I love calico cats. But as far as I'm concerned, a cat's a cat. They're all beautiful creatures. So I don't really have a preference. But if I had my way, I would definitely have a black cat. I love black cats, especially the soft ones. And Buddy is very soft, by the way. He's very, very soft for an orange cat. I don't know if orange cats are typically soft or not. He is a long-haired cat, if you didn't notice. But he's kind of short hair right now because he got matted hair earlier in this spring. So I had to take these shears and clip a lot of his hair. So he's short hair right now, but he is as far as breeds go, he's a long-haired breed. But his hair's shorter than it has been because I had to trim it. Oh God, no. I will not watch the Blair Witch Project. Never. Never in my entire life will I sit down through that movie. I get really bad motion sickness, for one. Every single found footage film I've ever seen made me puke. I could not finish the movie. I get so nauseous that I puke, and I'm not going to buy Dramamine just to watch a movie. That'll never happen. So I do not watch found footage movies. Also, when the Blair Witch Project was brand new and everybody was like all into it, at that time in my life, I was studying to be a preacher. And I was actually teaching Bible study and vacation Bible. I was a counselor at Bible camp. So I was really far right evangelical at the time. So at that point in time when the Blair Witch Project came out, I was very against watching horror movies, which is not at all what people are used to from me. I was still, even though horror movies are point blank, period, no discussion about it at the time, satanic and evil and not to be watched. I was still watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I justified it. I had my reasons for why I liked Nightmare on Elm Street, which eventually fueled my hunger for more horror movies. And when I left the Baptist church, I was like, all right, I'm going to go back and get into horror movies. So I actually went through a period of my life where I didn't watch horror movies. And that was the time the Blair Witch Project came out. So I just avoided it. But I'm not really into those kind of movies anyways. Like even in horror movies. And I don't just mean found footage. I mean like, I've never seen it, so I don't know 100% what it's about. But go into the woods and some supernatural force or whatever kills everybody. That's not typically what I'm... yes, I do like slasher movies, and in general, slasher movies are go into the woods and get murdered. But slasher movies usually have a serial killer, usually a masked serial killer. And the movies are all about the elaborate, over-the-top kills, not so much the scares. Now, I'm not anti-scary movies. I do like a good scary movie, but I prefer my horror movies to be gory than scary. I want blood and guts. That's what I want in a horror movie. Except for, like, you can go too far. Like, The Human Centipede went too far. I will never watch that movie again. Have you seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003? Yes, I actually did. I watched it in 2003 when it was brand new. Rented it on VHS. Not for myself, but because I was hanging out with my friends, and they were all obsessed with it. And everybody was like, you have to see this. And again, going back to what I just said previously, at the time, when it got to the point where the girl, spoilers, when it got to the point where the girl blew her head off, I walked away. I said, y'all can watch this movie without me, and I didn't finish the movie because that was too much for me at the time. Now, today, having grown up and gotten out of that bullshit evangelical Baptist Christianity and expanded my perspectives on things. I actually like the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I used to say I liked it more than the original, but now I will I will say, as of this point in time, I like the original and the 2003 remake the same. I can't really say which one I prefer, because every time I watch the 2003 one, I say, oh yeah, I like this one better. But then every time I watch the 1974 Tobe Hooper one, I'm like, oh, actually, I think I like this one better. So I'm just going to say I like them equally. But I also really like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I really like it a lot. And I know a lot of people hated it, but I loved the Netflix Chainsaw Massacre from 2002. I loved it. I watched it 5 times in 2 days. The first time I watched it 3 times back to back. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, I got to see this again and again. I was really into that movie. Yes, Gavi, I do not recommend watching the Human Centipede. It will fuck your brain in ways you don't need your brain to be fucked. It is not an enjoyable experience. Even if the bad guy of the movie is basically a Nazi German scientist, it's like, yeah, I still don't care. Ugh. There's nothing redeemable about the Human Centipede. There are only a handful of movies that I have watched that I'll never watch again or talk about. And there's a small list of movies that I will never watch, period. Most of the ones I'll never watch again, there's a short list. The most obnoxious one is People Under the Stairs. That movie traumatized me as a kid. I watched that movie when I was 8 years old. That is not an appropriate movie for an 8-year-old to watch. And I refuse to revisit it even as an adult as a horror fan, because I just don't want to subject myself to that again. So I put People Under the Stairs in the category of movies that I'm nope. That's just a nope all the way around. Movies that I haven't seen, that I won't say I'll never see, but I have no interest in seeing for one reason or another. Horror movies, at least. Because there's a I could be this could be a 12-hour podcast if I'm just listing all the movies I'll never watch or have no interest in. But horror movies I have no interest in. It's old, but I have no interest in Rosemary's Baby. I know enough about it to know it would be a miserable experience for me, and I just don't have any desire to have that experience. Having seen Hereditary and had a literal panic attack the first time I watched Hereditary, and being bored to tears watching Midsommar, I'm not likely to watch anything else Ari Aster does. I've already put him in the column of filmmakers that are like, yeah, if you're making a movie, it's not for me. Same thing with M. Night Shyamalan, or however you say his name, Shyamalan. His movies don't interest me in the slightest. If his name is in a movie, I'm just like, well, that's not a movie for me. I would have said the same thing about Eli Roth had Thanksgiving not been so fun. So I'm willing to go back and revisit some of the early Eli Roth stuff that I previously didn't enjoy, just to see if maybe there's something I missed. And the number one filmmaker I refuse to watch anything he's done because I've seen enough of his works to know his shit ain't for me is Quentin Tarantino. I literally only liked From Dusk Till Dawn. And he didn't even direct that. That was Robert Rodriguez. So anything else that has Quentin Tarantino's name on it, I've either seen it and thought it was stupid beyond stupid, or I won't watch it because everything I've seen of his was stupid beyond stupid. Terrifier was good. I liked Terrifier, actually, the first one. I never finished All Hallows Eve. And I've yet to see Terrifier 2. But I probably will someday. I just haven't got around to it. But yes, Terrifier was pretty gory in its own way. I wouldn't say gory. I'm going to backpedal. It was pretty shocking, I will say. I want to rephrase that. It was kind of... I mean, I've seen gorier movies than Terrifier. But it was shocking in what they did. Especially the infamous scene with the upside-down girl I'm not going to describe. Hostel... Oh, okay. I have reviewed Hostel already on Horror Trans. I haven't reviewed Hostel 2 yet. And the reason for that is because I want to rewatch it before I review it. I watched Hostel and Hostel 1 back to back when Hostel 2 came out on DVD. Me and my friends, again, we rented it and watched them back to back. And at that time, I didn't enjoy Hostel. I did enjoy Hostel 2. Rewatched Hostel a few months ago. Liked it even less the second time around. So I don't know how I'll feel about Hostel 2 when I revisit it. So I'm holding off doing that video until I rewatch it. And I'm going to be upfront with you. I'm not in a big hurry to rewatch it. Movies that were too scary versus movies that were too shocking. Those are two different topics. Movies that I thought were too scary. Poltergeist. For the longest time, I thought was the scariest movie I'd ever seen. The original Poltergeist. I thought... I just talked about it. I thought People Under the Stairs was too fucking scary. I thought The Exorcist was fucking scary, but not too scary. It was the kind of scary that I'm like, all right, this is scary, but I can manage it. The Omen is too scary for me, but only because I'm terrified of dogs, and the scene in the cemetery with the dogs is too much for my heart. I watched that and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. This movie's gonna kill me. Oh dear. Well, I apologize, Second Prize. I'm not gonna say anything negative about you. But I hate The Shining. I hate that movie. I refuse to watch it. I gave it a bad review. I do not like The Shining. I didn't think it was scary at all. I just thought it was boring as fuck. And I hate... okay. Hate's a strong word. Yes, I hate The Shining. Absolutely. I won't say I hate Stanley Kubrick because I've only seen 3 of his films. And I only liked one of the 3. The one I liked was Full Metal Jacket. Hated The Shining. And I didn't get A Clockwork Orange. Like, I just didn't understand it. I watched it and I was like, what is this? So, I don't have an opinion, really, on Stanley Kubrick as a whole, because I haven't seen enough of his movies to have that opinion. But considering of the 3 I've seen, I only liked one and hated another one, I'm going to venture to say Stanley Kubrick probably isn't for me. Now, when I was a kid... yes, that is true. When I was a kid, I thought Pet Sematary from 1989 was pretty scary. And honestly, I thought Misery was pretty scary, to tell you the truth. I did not like the movie at all, but I loved the book. Now, the book takes it too far. I will definitely admit to that. And I read Misery, the book, when I was in 2nd grade, which is really too young to be reading that book. But I did anyways. So, here's the thing. I know you're like, wait a second, didn't you just say when you were a teenager you didn't like horror movies? Okay, so my dad didn't convert to Christianity until I was 12. So from childhood to about 13, I was all about horror movies. And then from 13 to, I want to say 21, horror movies were the devil, and I avoided them at all costs. So there was a stretch in my teen years where I didn't watch horror movies, but I watched a shit ton of them and read a shit ton of Stephen King books when I was a kid. So it's kind of weird. But I also was a pagan before my dad was a Christian, and then, converted to Christianity because it was the thing to do, and my dad put the pressure on me. and then left Christianity for paganism 2 or 3 years ago and have been a whole hell of a lot happier ever since. Because spoilers, you don't need to love Jesus to have peace in your heart or to be a good person, despite what some Christians will have you believe. And pagans do not worship the devil, so don't come at me with that. We're not devil worshippers. We don't even fucking believe in the devil. As far as our religion is concerned, he doesn't exist. He's a fairy tale. Fictional character. But anyways, I don't really want to shit on Christianity because I don't feel like that's necessary. And there are some good people that are Christians, you know, and there are some things about Christianity that are okay. It's mostly evangelical Christianity I have a problem with. And the handsy Catholic priests I have a problem with. That's all I have time for today because I'm out of cigars. I gotta walk over to the gas station and get me some more because I can't breathe without smoke in my lungs. Stay cool, everybody. Thanks for watching.